Welcome to Money for People. If you're new to saving and investing, you've probably heard this question before. Cash ISA or stocks and shares ISA? And usually people make it sound really simple. Cash ISA is safe, stocks and shares ISA is better. Job done. But that's not actually the right way to think about it. Because this is not really about picking the best ISA, it's about putting the right money in the right place. And if you get that wrong, you can end up doing something that feels sensible, but actually works against you. So in this video, I'm going to explain what a cash ISA is, what a stocks and shares ISA is, which one tends to suit different goals, and the simple rule that makes the decision much easier. And importantly, by the end of this video, you might realise the answer is not one or the other at all. One reason this matters more now is that the ISA allowance is still £20,000 a year. And that can make a big difference when you're deciding where to keep your money. Part 1. What an ISA actually is. First of all, let's clear up one really important point. An ISA is not an investment by itself. It is not some magical account that makes money appear. An ISA is basically a tax wrapper. Think of it like a container. What matters is what you put inside that container. With a cash ISA, you are putting cash savings inside it. With a stocks and shares ISA, you are putting investments inside it. Both are ISAs, both can be useful, but they do very different jobs. So the question is not which ISA is better, the real question is, what is this money for? That is the whole game. Part 2. When a cash ISA makes more sense. Let's start with the cash ISA. A cash ISA is not exciting. It is not the one that gets people dreaming about building wealth. But boring is not always bad. Sometimes boring is exactly what you need. If this money is for something in the near future, a cash ISA can make much more sense. For example, your emergency fund, money for a house deposit, money for a big purchase in the next few years, or just money you really cannot afford to see fall. Because with cash, the aim is not huge growth. The aim is stability. You know the money is there. You are not checking your account and seeing it down 8% one week, then up 3% the next. That matters more than people realise. A lot of beginners think they should invest everything because investing sounds smarter. But if you invest money you may need soon, you are taking a risk with the timing. And timing matters a lot when your deadline is close. So when does the cash ISA win? It wins when the goal is soon. It wins when certainty matters more than growth. And it wins when peace of mind is part of the goal. Short one. If you need the money soon, the cash ISA often wins. Not because it is exciting, but because it is stable. If this is your emergency fund, your house deposit, or money for the next few years, you do not want to open the app one morning and see it has dropped. Sometimes the best home for your money is not the one with the biggest upside. It is the one that lets you sleep at night. Part 3. When a stocks and shares ISA makes more sense. Now let's talk about the stocks and shares ISA. This is where people often get more interested, because this is where growth lives. Inside a stocks and shares ISA, you can hold things like funds, ETFs, individual shares, and bonds. And the big attraction is this. If your investments grow, that growth is protected inside the ISA. And income inside the ISA is protected too. That is powerful. But here is the part beginners really need to understand. A stocks and shares ISA is not a better savings account. It is an investment account. And investments can fall. That means if you put money in at the wrong time and then need it back quickly, you could end up selling when the value is down. That is why a stocks and shares ISA usually makes more sense for longer term goals. So when does the stocks and shares ISA win? It wins when the money is for the long term. It wins when you can leave it alone. It wins when you are willing to accept ups and downs in exchange for the chance of better growth over time. Think retirement outside of a pension. Think future wealth building. Think money you are not going to need next year, or maybe even the year after that. Short 2. A stocks and shares ISA is not where you put money you need soon. It is where you put money you want to grow over the long term. Yes, it can go down. That is the deal. But if your goal is years away rather than months away, that is where a stocks and shares ISA starts to make a lot more sense. Part 4. The biggest beginner mistake. The biggest mistake beginners make is comparing these two accounts as if they are trying to do the same job. They are not. It is a bit like asking, what is better, a fridge or an oven? That depends on what you are trying to do. If you want to keep food cold, one answer is obvious. If you want to cook dinner, the other answer is obvious. Same with ISAs. Let's say you have £5,000. If that £5,000 is your emergency cushion and you invest it in a stocks and shares ISA because someone online said cash is pointless, that could be a terrible decision. But if that same £5,000 is money you want to build over the next 10 years, leaving it sat in cash the whole time might also be a poor choice. So again, the key question is, when do you need the money? Not what sounds smarter. Not what makes me feel like an investor. Not what does social media say rich people do. Just, when do I need this money back? That one question clears up so much confusion. 3. The biggest beginner mistake is treating a cash ISA and a stocks and shares ISA like they do the same job. They do not. One is mainly about stability. The other is mainly about long-term growth. So stop asking which one is better. Ask what the money is actually for. Part 5. For most beginners, the real answer is both. And this is the part a lot of people miss. For many beginners, the best answer is not cash ISA or stocks and shares ISA. It is both, used for different reasons. You might keep short-term money and emergency savings in cash, and then slowly build long-term investments in a stocks and shares ISA. That is often much more sensible than trying to force one account to do everything, because different goals need different tools. And once you see that, the whole thing becomes much easier. So do not freeze because you think this has to be perfect from day one. It does not. A beginner does not need the perfect ISA setup. A beginner needs a sensible first step. For a lot of beginners, the answer is not one or the other. It is both. Cash for short-term safety, stocks and shares for long-term growth. Different goals, different tools. That is the bit most people miss. So, cash ISA versus stocks and shares ISA. Which is better for beginners? Here is the simplest answer possible. If the money is for the short term, or you cannot afford for it to fall, cash ISA makes more sense. If the money is for the long term, and you can ride out the ups and downs, stocks and shares ISA can make more sense. And if you have both short-term and long-term goals, you may end up using both. That is the real answer. Not the flashy answer, not the dramatic answer, but the useful answer. If this video helped make ISAs finally feel simple, give it a like, subscribe to Money for People, and let me know in the comments. Are you more comfortable with cash, or are you ready to start investing for the long term? And as always, this is for education only, not financial advice. 5. Cash ISA if you need the money soon. Stocks and shares ISA if the goal is years away. That is the simple version. And for a lot of people, the real answer is both.